Okay, I'm going to try and make this as quick and concise as I possibly can. Hello, all you lovely people. So, the lady behind the channel Crafted Evidence has put out a video called This Is Not a Watch Channel, and I'm simply going to react to it. And I'm going to say a few things because it seems like the lady behind that channel, who considers herself to be a journalist. And by the way, I've recently been made aware that she's had some health issues, and I really feel sorry about that. I don't wish that on anyone. So, I want to wish her well in her health struggles. But she seems to be having a bit of a back and forth with Rusek supporter and the Ruseks themselves, particularly with people like Val and the Ruseks themselves, who I think she wanted to interview, but I think they've declined her interview. And she's made some statements about Frankie Rusek. There are also some comments written underneath her video about Frankie. And let me just say this about Frankie Jr. I am not afraid to criticize Frankie Jr. I've criticized him quite a few times in the past. When I talked about the CJ Fund, I talked about Claire Morgan, and that's pretty much in the past. I really don't make those kind of videos anymore. And I was very critical of certain things to do with this CJ Fund and the way the money was raised. However, I think it's time to put this to bed, and, you don't have to believe me. And I'm not saying that I know everything, because I don't. But time and time again, it's been brought up that Frankie has some kind of long record, and that, he has some kind of major conviction. No, he doesn't. He's certainly not an angel. He's no Boy Scout. He's not all sweet and innocent. I think we all know that. He's had issues in the past. Like everybody, none of us are perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. And it's going to come across like I'm trying to defend him, which is absolutely not the case. I just don't like it when people put out assumptions out there, or ideas out there, or misinformation. He has never been charged with or has any convictions for any of the things he's been accused of. He probably has maybe a few traffic tickets. He's no angel. He's had issues with things in his life, addictions and stuff like that. He's no angel, but he's never been convicted of anything major. So I just want to put that rumor to bed, because there is a difference between an accusation being made and something going to trial and an outcome. There's an accusation. Anyone can accuse anyone of anything. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true. He has no convictions. It's just like with the Karen Reid. As I speak, she hasn't been convicted of anything. There has been an accusation made, but it has to be laid out in court and presented to a jury or a judge. And that never happened with Frankie. So everyone going around saying that, he has a conviction, it isn't true. It's not the case. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding. An accusation was made against him, yes, but I don't think he ever did any time inside for it. So, I just want to make people aware of that. I just want to make that clear. I'm trying to be as clear and concise as I possibly can. There is a difference between an accusation and being charged and convicted of something. And in this case, Frankie wasn't. To my knowledge, if somebody has some other view or some other proof that he was, please enlighten me. But that's my interpretation. That's my understanding. That's what I know from what I know. If somebody has different information, please give it to me, write a comment, tell me. But that's my understanding of things as they stand. Now, the other thing is, her video was basically about how she's not a Watts channel and she's not trying to profit from the Watts channel. I'm paraphrasing. I don't want to speak completely for her, because her words are her words. She has said that she's a journalist and that she comes at cases from a journalistic point of view, and she likes to tell both sides of the story. She likes to be objective, and I can completely understand that. I'm the same way. I try to be as objective as I possibly can. Sometimes I'll fail at it. Sometimes I'll flop. I'm human. I make mistakes. I get things wrong sometimes. I can't be right 100% of the time. But there seems to be some kind of growing resentment towards her. Claim she's kind of been targeted because she's talked about giving AD Armchair Detective a platform, and people seem to be, Ruzek supporters particularly seem to have a problem or an issue with her for this. And she's saying, I just want both sides of the story. I think she's also accusing Frankie of saying things about her that are not so nice on other platforms, on Facebook and various other platforms. I don't really want to get into that because I don't know enough about it at this time. So the reason why I wanted to do a reaction video on this is because the lady behind Crafted Evidence, she's come into this quite late into the game, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's not her fault. But she has come onto the scene many years later. And, a lot of us or a lot of creators or, watch channels, I don't consider myself to be a watch channel. I talk about various topics on my channel. I've covered the Lori Vallow Daybell case. I've done Morphew. I've talked about Jack VR. I've talked about, many other cases. And also I do a little bit of cooking or photography, cooking photography, and, things like decor and table settings. It's kind of like a true crime, drama, gossip channel mixed with a little bit of lifestyle as well. So I absolutely don't consider myself to be a watch channel, although I probably was for a while, probably about 9 months to a year I was for a while. But I don't consider myself to be anymore. But yeah, the reason why I'm doing a reaction about this is because, with the Watts case has come so much back and forth between people, animosity between people, and a lot of people just putting things out there that are not factually true or exact or correct. And I just wanted to say something about that because I think, Frankie has, won this judgment, and I do think that he should be allowed time to enjoy the fact that he has won. I was on my channel for quite a while on my soapbox talking about the CJ Fund, talking about Claire Morgan, talking about how Frankie and AD will never meet in the courtroom. I think I'm still right about that. I don't think that AD and Frankie ever met in a courtroom. Once again, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, because I never thought AD would engage with the case, and he didn't. And now he's trying to, he's trying to save the day kind of thing. It's too late. So there might not have been a traditional trial, which I never thought there would be. And, it might be a small civil case and all of that. But the fact of the matter is that AD didn't win. He didn't come out victorious, on this. And I think Frankie should be allowed at least some reprieve. I wish the Ruzeks well. I'm not a Ruzek supporter. I can tell you that. I'm not a Shiner. I'm not a Ruzek supporter. I was a Ruzek supporter for a time, and a lot of people considered me a Shiner for a long time. And a Shiner is somebody who is considered to be very supportive of Shanann and not able to see her flaws. There are people who don't like Shanann, and I was seen as a Shiner, somebody who liked Shanann and didn't see beyond her flaws. But I don't consider myself. I've been objective about Shanann and the whole case. I've tried to look at things from both sides and everything in between. So, I do think that Frankie should be allowed to have his moment. And it seems like there's lots of people out there not allowing him to have his moment. And, AD will bring up stuff about Martin, Claire Morgan. At the end of the day, Frankie's case, or so-called case, that's what I used to say, is not about Claire Morgan. It's not about what Martin Dehan has done. It's about a case between him and AD and him and AD alone. So anyway, I just wanted to clear things up a bit, give you my opinion, react and say something on this, just give you my 2 cents or my 50 cents, and I'm off. Have a nice evening. Have a nice day wherever you are. And thank you for listening and thank you for watching.